William, welcome back to the show, mate. I'm so pumped to have you on. Yeah, you're welcome. My show's sort of designed in a way to have people come on 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. So yeah, thank you for, I guess, enjoying the experience enough last time to say yes again.
Yeah,
again
yeah,
this
100%. It was, and like we kind of talked about before the show, the first show, you were like asking me some pretty good, like kind of outside the box, general normal questions, and I really appreciated that. It actually made me have to think about my answer a little bit, with a little more detail.
Yeah, no, that's really cool, and thank you. It's something, in the background there, I've got that quote that's egotistically mine that says, "Conversation is sparked by genuine curiosity," and so it's a real compliment of you to say that. So thanks, mate. Very very awesome. So for people who haven't listened to the first episode, you are a former Navy SEAL who spent 26 years in that role. The ins, the outs, the tribulations, the trials, getting through buds, all of that. And we touched on that in the first episode. But I guess, for people that haven't listened to that one, tell me a little bit about that background and I guess your 30-second spiel on how Navy SEAL life was for 26 years.
Let's see. So I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed going through SEAL training, even though it was really, really hard. Because that's all I wanted to do. It took me a long time to get there. It took me, from the time that I found out what a Navy SEAL was, and again, this was before the internet. This was before, we had, the telephones that, rotary phones that you did, that spun it around. That was a phone that I answered when the Navy recruiter called me and asked me if I wanted to join the Navy. And I only heard about like what a Navy SEAL was a few months before that. But I always knew I wanted to be part of some kind of small elite unit, military something, not part of like the big army moving around somewhere. I want to be able to sneak into places and sneak out of places. And maybe that's because I grew up hunting or something like that. I was in the Boy Scouts. So I joined the Navy. I was going to become a SEAL. I made some errors. I wasn't quite prepared physically also to go to SEAL training. And so I failed the fitness test, to become a SEAL. So I ended up having to go ride on a ship for 3 years or 2 years. And then eventually I got to go to SEAL training. Finally made it through that process. It took me 13 short months to finish 6 months of training because maybe I got injured a few times. Got to the SEAL team. I learned how to, do small unit tactics. I learned how to drive a little mini submarine into like different parts of the, world. I learned how to become a sniper. I became a sniper instructor, jumped out of airplanes, fast roped onto, submarines in the middle of the ocean to go and do some things. And then I retired. And then when I retired, I started a consulting company. Then I started a CBD company, and now I also have a business coaching or consulting. I'm not sure the proper way to present it, but it's a business leadership consulting company, coaching, something like that.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I've seen you deliver those workshops now that things have opened up again, and it looks like you're providing tons of value in those. So yeah, keen to ask you about that a little bit later. You said something interesting there. So you failed the fitness test first, and a lot of people, when they come up against that failure, they'll just give up and then they won't go back and do it again. But as you said, you went and, I guess went the long route around. You went and did what you had to do, and then you came back and obviously were successful. What do you think part of your personality is that made you not go down path A, that people will just give up if they fail, and you were just like, nah, I'm going again. That's what I'm doing. What do you think that was?
I think because I grew up very poor, very humble beginning. Like I remember girls in school calling me poor white trash. And interesting where I am today. But I was always the underdog, and I was like, I was not a good athlete. I still to this day have very poor hand-eye coordination, but I have heart. I don't have quit in me. I don't quit. Even though that time I took the first time I took the physical fitness test, I actually quit. And when I say I quit, it's a swim. It's like a 500-yard swim in a certain amount of time using a certain stroke. Then it's push-ups, sit-ups and pull-ups, and then a 1.5 mile run in long pants and boots. I passed the swim, no problem. I started doing the push-ups, and I think I got to like 38, and I had to do like 52 was the minimum number. No one wants to do the minimum number. You need to like do as many as you can. And I got to like 38. I was like, 38. I was like, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can make it to 52. So I quit. And I was like, oh, I just lost an opportunity. Right? Like it hit me pretty hard. I'm like, okay, so go get better at push-ups. And, the next time I took it, I was in the, riding a ship. I was like, there's no way I'm going to fail this thing. I took it with a bunch of other guys and, I crushed the swim, the push-ups, the pull-ups, the sit-up. I beat everyone. I was the only one that was taking the test to become a SEAL. Everyone else was either taking the test to become an EOD guy, explosive ordnance disposal, or a Navy diver. The test is the same. The standards are different. So again, on the run, the 1.5 mile run, however many kilometers that is, like 3 or something. It's something. We do it to be a SEAL candidate. You do it in boots and long pants. Everyone else did it in shorts and sneakers. And so I beat everyone on the run even. And I'm coming across the finish line. I'm like, I got this. And it turns out that I missed the run by, even though it was the first one finished, I failed the run by 14 seconds because my ego got in the way there. I got this. I'm beating everyone, all good to go. I've crushed it. And I kind of, strolled across the finish line and they gave me the time and I was like, that can't be right. So I had to take it a third time before I actually passed and actually got to go to training. But it was, the beginning was ego, how hard can it be? That's why I failed. I wasn't prepared. The second time I failed, it was ego got in the way. I got this, no big deal. And I didn't go fast enough. Third time, I'm like, I got no ego in this. It's all or nothing. And this is what you want to do. So you just might as well keep doing it. So go do it. And so that was kind of it.
So you speaking to a lot of companies, and leadership. As a leader, we can have ego. We can have ego that we don't even know about, right? So how often do you see ego getting in the way of leaders being who they can actually really be in true leadership?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think ego can be really, really good. I want to be the best at whatever it is. You use that ego, you feed off that ego, and you just keep excelling and you keep growing. You keep getting better and better and better, and you use that as fuel. But a lot of times, most of the times today, and you hear a lot of people, they find entitlement in their world, or they find that they think that they're entitled to something. I'm going to tell you, you're entitled to nothing ever. You're entitled to live, be born. Okay, that was awesome. And now you're entitled to die. That's about it. That's the only guarantees in life. You get nothing else. Everything else you have to work for. But people, I don't know why, but people in leadership positions, and I have kind of been there at times, and I learned the lesson very quickly of, that's your job. You should go do it. Good. Trust but verify. Yeah, of course you did that. It never got done because the person, they didn't know how to do it and they were afraid to ask for help. Best case scenario. Worst case scenario is they're like, F you, I'm not doing that. That's not my job. And as a leader, your job is actually your job as a leader, you got lots of jobs, but kind of the ego thing, everyone in the organization is going to have some sort of ego. And if the leader of the organization is leading with ego and it's not the good ego, I'm the man and you guys just need to go and I've got my red Corvette over here and you guys are making $30,000 a year, no one is going to follow that guy. No one wants anything to do with him. And so, it's going in and training leaders how to be humble, which is very difficult when you're the man or you're the woman or whatever it is. And, hey, what you need to do is you need to show appreciation to your organization. You need to actually show up on time and be the leader of the company. You need to be there before everyone. Potentially, you need to be there after everyone. You need to be able to answer the questions that need to be answered that are in your scope of genius. Your job is also to find people, the right people for your organization. And sometimes that right person doesn't look like the right person on paper. They're like a clean slate, and your job is to train them. It's like a child. Child is born, they have no habits, no whatever, and they're going to pick up what they get from their parents along the way. So the same thing is true in business. You have leaders at all levels of an organization. Each one of those leaders are responsible for shaping and forming the people at their level above and below through communications and other things. And really, like, if their ego is getting in the way, then they either have to learn how to turn off the ego or they need to go away. Really, at the end of the day, that's kind of what it comes down to.
Amazing. This is, I promise, the only kind of clickbaity question that I'll ask you for this whole thing.
I don't believe you.
Um,
We've done these interviews before.
Yeah. How can a business leader lead like a Navy SEAL?
So that's funny. So I give, my main keynote is I give a keynote. It's 5 secrets to think like a Navy SEAL, and that the secret of those 5 secrets is to get naked. And what I mean by that is, when I say get naked, it means take your ego off and set it in the corner. It means becoming your authentic self and becoming the person that you're truly capable of being. And oftentimes that's not what you've been doing in the past. Your ego, even though it maybe feels good, it's actually holding you back. So naked is also an acronym, and I've turned naked into, really the way that you think about the world. And so we'll start with the N stands for never quit. It means if you started something, a project, a program, whatever it is, then you take that thing all the way to the end, whatever that end looks like. Maybe it's a company, maybe you're going to sell it, maybe it's you're getting your degree, maybe you're starting a new podcast, whatever it is. You take that thing and you run with it, and it's going to be hard, and that's a good thing, because if it's hard, then that means other people probably quit along the way. And so what I say is even when it gets hard, what you need to do is you need to create small victories, because you're going to have days where you don't feel like doing it at all. I certainly have those days. I get up and I'm like, I don't want to do this again. Okay, let's do it. Let's just get in there and do it. So, but what I do is I create the small victories, and to kind of give you an example of what a small victory is so when I was going through prisoner of war training, where they would beat us up and put us in a prison cell, and they wouldn't feed us, and you had a coffee can, that was your bathroom, and you didn't get to sleep. You'd be in a very specific position, and they smacked us around and interrogated us. And what they taught us is your job is not to be like John Rambo strapped to a bed frame being electrocuted with 10,000 volts and resist like that. Your job is to resist in other ways, to outsmart your captors. If they're asking you questions, they probably already know the answer. So you give them some information, but then you change the ending. You make, little white lies. You change details in there. And, if they come back and they're like, you lied to us, you say, oh, sorry, I haven't slept. And so every time that you're able to deceive or resist your captors, those are small victories. And every time you get a small victory, you get a win. It helps your soul, your heart, your soul, your mind, and it keeps sanity while you're in those positions of detention and interrogation and things like that. Another example that I give is, Hell Week, 5.5 days of you don't sleep, you're cold, you're wet, you're miserable, you're wearing a coat of sand all over your body. It's very exfoliating because, it gets to rub together at 24 hours a day. And you're in that frigid Pacific Ocean getting some cryotherapy, and it doesn't matter how much it sucks. One thing is constant the entire time is they feed you 4 meals a day. So no matter how much it sucks, all you have to do is make it to that next meal. And once you make it to that next meal, that's a small victory, and you just make it to the next meal and the next meal and the next meal until Hell Week is over. And then that's it, and it's that easy. So if you want to complete the hardest task, you have to create these small victories and never quit. And the way that you do it in your personal life is maybe you have this big thing that you're trying to do. You chop it up into bite-sized pieces, and then you consume just one of those pieces a day. And then at the end of however long it takes, you can consume more than one, but at least get one small victory every single day. And that will propel you on your road. The A is accept failure. We can talk about all the people in the world that have had failure. Me, most especially, the biggest lessons I learned is through failure. One of the things that the reason that we have a light bulb, an incandescent light bulb today, is because Thomas Edison, he discovered 10,000 ways to not create the incandescent light bulb. He didn't fail after 10 or 100 times or after 1,000 times. He failed 10,000 times and then created the incandescent light bulb. Failure is the same way. If you use failure as your foundation, you'll build success off of that. The K is kill mediocrity. Let's face it, we're at a war. We're at a war with mediocrity. Like, it surrounds us. We have technology. We can hit a button on our phone and have ice cream delivered. It's making us weak. Technology is awesome until we become so dependent on it, we can't live without it. And so that makes us weak. That makes us mediocre. And, one of the biggest, battles that we lose every single day is that battle with our ego, because our ego knows what makes us great and what makes us weak. It knows what we love and what we hate, and it knows exactly what to tell us to make us quit and not attack our goals for the day. And so that's when we quit on ourselves. That's when we become mediocre. So what I tell people is you need to compete in kindness, compete in giving, compete in generosity, compete in gratitude. And once you build, you start competing with the people that are around you, you're going to start changing yourself, and you're going to change the lives of the other people. And you're no longer going to be, and you're going to be able to beat that ego that's getting in the way. And so, that's one way of killing mediocrity in your own life. The E is expose your fears, and it's the fears of that noise in the back of your head that comes out when you're alone driving in your car or you're up late at night. I look at fear to be like a vampire, where a vampire sucks the life out of you, and so does fear. Fear sucks the life out of you, and the way you kill a vampire is you expose it to sunlight. And the way that you kill that fear is you have to expose it. Lots of ways you can do that. You can do things that scare you, like maybe public speaking. Maybe you were beat up as a kid, so I would say take a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class for a year. You're going to be forced to fight someone every single day. Maybe you're not into any of those things, and maybe what you need to do is talk to someone. Maybe you don't want to talk to someone. A friend of mine says that fear doesn't exist on paper, and so what he does is he'll be driving in his car, and he'll have all these thoughts and fears like swirling around in his head. He'll pull over, he'll go buy a cup of coffee, sit down with a pencil and a piece of paper and write down the things that are bothering him. And then he'll read them, and he'll read them out loud. And he'll be like, that's really what's bothering me. When you see those fears written on paper, you've exposed them. And now you're like, that's really it? Now, it's not a one-trick pony. It doesn't happen like one and done. You have to do it over and over and over, just like you go to a gym to get big and strong and whatever, or you want to be a good runner, you have to run and run and run. But the more times you do it, the easier it will be to expose those fears. And once you control the fears will no longer control you. And the D is to do the work, because really, there was this, we're afraid to work nowadays. It goes back to mediocrity. We have technology. It'll just do it for us, or so-and-so, and we're just kind of entitled. We forgot what it's like to do work. And, I had this when I graduated from the SEAL teams, or from SEAL training. I was like, I've finished the hardest military training in the world. Everything from now on will be easy. And I couldn't have been more wrong. When I showed up at the SEAL team, I learned very quickly that you're expected to perform better today than you did yesterday. That's why they say the only easy day is yesterday. And so I had to learn how to do the work. There's a saying that says Rome wasn't built in a day, but I guarantee you it was built every single day until it became an empire. And we need to do that in our own life. We're stuck in this world of instant gratification. We like it. We want it now. I want it my way. And that's not reality. That's not how you're going to get something that's meaningful in your life. You have to actually have to do the work and put forth the effort and expect zero recognition for it and just continue pushing forward. And that's really, at the end of the day, the get naked mindset. And so, I can go into much more detail. I know that was pretty detailed and pretty long-winded, but I get a little carried away sometimes when I start talking about it.
No, mate, that is awesome, and you've clearly had 12 months to work on that, because I remember the first time I asked you to explain Get Naked, it was you kind of fumbled around a bit. You had a good idea of what it was, but what you've just done there is incredible, and I can definitely see why that's a valuable keynote speech, because every single one of those things you can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper on that.
Yeah, and
it's
awesome. And it's interesting. Like some people that I coach right now, they use that exact format, and they talk to me about like so and so. They don't want to do the work. Yeah, it's like it's going to take you 10 more minutes to like put all that information into an email to get permission to do something. You're not going to get approval to do it from your boss if he doesn't have all the information and the reasons why and why not and the pros and cons. It's just not going to happen. That's maybe an example. But yeah, people just don't want to do it. They don't want to put forth the effort.
Well, the real opportunity is most people won't bother. That's if you understand that when it comes to leadership, when it comes to your sales calls, when it comes to your follow-up, when it comes to making a website look that little bit better, most people, when it comes to selling products, services, or in their leadership, they don't do the small things that add up to big things, and they don't bother. And the real opportunity is most people won't bother isn't my quote. That's Stephen Thomas, who wrote Business Networking for Dummies, right? I just have this book all the time because I do quote this a lot, so it's nice to just go, hey, this is the plug. But it's so true, and even it speaks home when you're about to quit and about to give up. So that person who's about to quit, they're on a preface. They can either do the work and not quit, or they can not do the work and do the thing that people, and just not bother, right?
Right. And a lot of times, if you don't do the work now, everything has a cost. Everything has a price. You're either going to pay me now or pay me later. And that was actually a saying that I learned in SEAL training, and I didn't really understand it at the time. Like, you have to pay, if you want to be part of this program, you have to pay for it. You're going to pay for it physically, you're going to pay for it mentally, emotionally, whatever. If you don't want to be a part of it, you don't have to pay, but it's going to cost something else in your life. The cost of you, like, having regrets of quitting something that you maybe wanted to do, or maybe you didn't really want to do it, and it's not that big a deal, and then you go down a different road. But, I remember, his name was Forrest Walker was his name. And he ran up next to me. I'm running behind of the class, and he's like, hey, do you want to be up there? I'm like, yeah, I want to be up there with the rest of the class. He's like, okay, you either have to pay me now or you have to pay me later. Because if you fall behind all the way on the run, then you're going to have extra work to do when the class is done, and these few stragglers that didn't keep up with the group, they're going to do some extra physical activities. And for a long time, let's see if you're going to quit now. And some guys do quit in the goon squad, is what they called it. So you pay me now and stay up with the group. And he said it's easier to keep up than it is to catch up. So, and that's true in pretty much everything you do. You pay me now or pay me later, and it's easier to keep up than it is to catch up.
Love that. You'll also like this. I've got this is my mouse pad that I put my mouse on. It says work. That's how you get it. And that's just so relevant to what you're saying here. So that made me smile. So bit of, I guess, personal stuff on my end. I got some sort of tests done recently. My adrenal levels were the lowest that these, like on the function, were as low as this person had ever seen. My liver function was terrible. And the guy looked at me and he's like, I don't know why you're not in hospital. It shocks me that you're here. And what he said was he reckons it's pretty much just your mind pushing through, and your mind getting through the physical stuff. And obviously I put steps in place, right, to, because your body can only put up with so much. But I guess the question that I wanted to ask you is, what experiences have you had that you've seen how the mind can overcome what your physical body doesn't want you to do?
I think I learned that lesson in Hell Week. So, you were in Hell Week, again, it's 5.5 days of no sleep. You're cold, wet, and miserable the whole time, and you're moving the whole time. You don't stop. And it's just really a beat session. You're carrying these boats on your head, and you work mostly as a boat crew. 7 guys working together. And I ended up in a boat crew that was, when I got in the boat crew, I noticed that there were no superstars in there. No one that was exceptional above anyone else. Everyone was pretty average. But I noticed before I got into this boat crew, they were winning all the races. And I was like, I want to be in that boat crew. So eventually we had to, a bunch of guys quit. We had to reshuffle who was in what boat crew. And I was like, I made sure, I did the counting, the number. I was like, okay, I want to be in boat crew 3. And I got into boat crew 3. I didn't know if the same guys would be there or not. And it was pretty much mostly the same guys. There were some exceptions, some changes out. And then we started running for the first time. And I was like, oh my God, I can't keep up. I don't feel like putting out and my legs hurt and my stomach hurts and my lungs hurt and everything feels like it's on fire and I'm going to throw up and I can't even feel my legs right now. And I'm just trying to keep up with the guys of the boat. I could slow down, but if I did, I would be screwing all the 6 of the other guys. And then now I don't want to be the bad guy here. I don't want them to turn on me and beat me up. So I just kept up. And eventually I pushed through that pain and through that effort. And then other guys had similar moments where they were like, I'm tired, it hurts, my body can't take this much, but they just kept up. And we all did it throughout training. And then, once I kind of broke through that mental wall that I had, I was able to run faster. I was able to do things that I before couldn't do. I could totally do it physically, but my mind was actually holding me back. And that's the case most of the time. Like when we think we're done, we still have more in the tank. And I learned it later on, towards the end of training, where we had this thing called Frog Hill. Before we ate chow when we were out on San Clemente Island, doing land warfare, we had to run to the top of this hill, and it was, it's very steep. It was a whole class, and you had to get there in a certain amount of time, or you had to go eat, chow wet and sandy, and no one wants to do that. I want to be dry and inside, and I don't want to eat outside. It's cold and whatever. Even though people think that California is nice and warm, I think Australia is nice and warm. I know that it gets pretty chilly there. What I ended up doing is it was kind of the same mentality. Is I didn't want to hold anyone else back. And if I got to the front, I didn't want anyone slowing down and getting in my way because I want to get to the top of the hill. So I would run and I would be maybe top 2 or 3 or 4 people getting to the top of the hill first. Number one, I didn't want to hold anyone back and be the reason that they failed. And number 2, I didn't want someone in front of me slowing me down and being the cause of me to fail, because I wanted to be the master of my own destiny at that point. And so it sucks, running. It's 2 minutes of sprinting pretty much straight uphill. And get on a rower and do that thing as hard as you can for 2 minutes. It's kind of like that, as hard as you can, and don't slow down at all. And so it's kind of like that every single time, running in boots and with all your equipment on and a rifle and all this other stuff. And so it sucks, but you just at some point when you do it enough times and you get that repetition under your belt of pushing through that pain, that sort of suck factor, you realize that you have a lot more than what you actually think you do. But it takes time and it takes effort, and it's like I said before, you expose your fears once and it was oh, that's great. They're still coming back. That pain still comes back. Running doesn't get less painful. I just get more used to the pain.
What does that feel like when your mind pushes you through to another level, gets you through that suck factor, and then you up level? What does that actually feel like when it happens?
It feels pretty good, actually. I mean, when you realize that's kind of what's going on, you're like, oh, maybe I have more. But it's you're building. It's a slow build. And, I could go out and run right now if I haven't run for a super long time, and I'm going to be oh, this is not that much fun. But over time, and I'm oh, I can push a little bit farther. Or maybe I do a run and I never time myself really, but I'm wow, I felt terrible off of that run. But then I look at my watch and I was a lot faster than what I normally run, because I just maybe I felt good during the run, or then I'm I started fast and so I stay fast, and I just didn't understand my own pace, and so I finished quickly, but it was miserable. And I don't like running, by the way, but I do it just because it's a necessary evil, I think. But when you do push through and you see what you're actually capable of, it's very empowering. I mean, just I never wanted to be on a stage giving a keynote, public speaking, anything like that. And I was afraid to do it for the first time. I'm still nervous when I do it. You know, the last time I did it, I was like, you know what? Let me tell you something. I'm probably going to stutter. I'm going to do some other stuff because, you know, speaking on stage is like, I would much rather be in a gunfight. I'm way more comfortable doing that. But that's because I trained to do that for a lot of years. I didn't train to stand on a stage and give a keynote and like have these dynamic pauses and things like that. And what if I forget my lines? Like I do take my script up there just in case if I need to like go back, but, or maybe I get emotional on stage. I've certainly done that. I've cried on stage more than once, and I am not a crier, but apparently I get a little emotional sometimes. But now I'm like, I never, ever, ever wanted to do that. And now I can't wait to do it the next time.
Yeah, and you're good at it. I've seen sections of it, and I'd love for you to actually link me a keynote if you've got one on YouTube or something. I really want to kind of see you in that element, which you know, as I say, I've seen bits of it, but yeah, man, that's awesome. Hey, speaking of things you don't like, so you don't like running, and one of the fun things that we talked about last time was we also know another person who was a Navy SEAL that doesn't like something. He goes by the name of David Goggins, and he doesn't like the water. Now you were on a bit of a mission to call him out because there's a swim that happens every year for charity to help with mental health, and Mr. Goggins hasn't showed up to it as one of the most prominent figures in the space, right? How did that go? Did you get any response? And like, I understand he's a busy guy, but yeah, what's going on? And are we going to try and get David to the swim this year?
I will try to get him there. I don't know him personally. I didn't know him in the SEAL teams. I didn't even know who he was when I got out, and then someone told me about him. I'm like, who? I don't know that guy. And he was on Joe Rogan. I'm like, who is this guy? But you know, I was in the process. I've sent a video or two to his Instagram account. He doesn't manage it. Someone else manages it. Maybe his girlfriend or wife, whoever that is. You know, calling him out. And then the guy that was putting the swim on, who does know Goggins very well, I sent him the video, and he was like, yeah, post it. And then he like texted me later. He's like, wait, no, don't post it. I'm like, I'm posting it. I'm putting this up there. I'm putting it out. He's like, no, we're not here to like call each other out. We're here to like, you know, I've been talking to Goggins. He's not going to come, and it doesn't matter what you do. I'm like, yeah, I know, because he's scared of the water. That's what. Yeah, it's like he did, like it's got an issue with some team guys or something. I'm like, well, then get over that shit. This is not about you. This is about something much bigger. It's a charity event. And so he asked me several times to not, you know, call him out in that forum, so I did not. But there's always this year. You never know.
No, really, really well said. And I think, you know, there's always two sides to a story, right? And yeah, it's amazing to get him to come along, but you know, it's interesting because, and this might be a really good segue into another question. We'll either figure out, like, if something's a good enough thing for us to do, right, which for charity definitely would be, and for the awareness of that cause, which is the mental health, is. But even in business and in life, if we want to do something, we'll either come up with an excuse not to do it or figure out a way to do it. And I think that's very animate in the, you know, he might not like the water, but the excuse is, I don't get along with some guys that might be there. But in actual fact, the thing underneath that's stopping us is the root cause and the fear. But I guess to segue this into a lesson, do you see that behavior show up in other areas for people?
Sure. I mean, I don't get along with some of the guys that are on the swim. I don't care. I just don't get around them. It's fine. It's not a big deal. I have other people that I like to be around. I'm not going to be around people that I don't really want to be around. But I will show up. I will be brave enough to show up if it's for a good cause. And I may have to interact with them. That's fine. Not a big deal. But yeah, I think most people, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's in the billionaire category, And he was like, why can't I do this thing that I know that I should do? Why won't I do it? Why won't I go to the gym? La la la. And I was like, bro, you're not going to do anything until you want to do it. Like, you want to grow your businesses to whatever level. You want to do all these things that you're doing. You're doing them because you want to do them. You're not going to do it. You're not going to go to the gym and start working out because you don't want to do it. It's until you change that mindset in your very own little being there, until you change the way that you're thinking about it, that you want to do that. You don't have to like it. You just have to want it. And then you'll do it. It doesn't have to be enjoyable to want to do it or to tell yourself that you want to do it. You just show up and do it. And then you may learn to like it. Like running. I don't like running. I do it anyway. I make little games out of it. Like, I might not run like the whole time. Like, I've got this little, I live, a 12-minute walk from the beach. So I'll walk the 12 minutes to the beach, and then I'll do a 1 mile run on the beach. Nothing hard. It's just, soft sand and just to change things up. And then I'll walk home. I got some good, 30 minutes of quality cardio. I didn't kick myself in the Jimmy. I just went out there and did some work and I got something done and I feel really good afterwards. Other times I do a 3 to 5 mile loop around my house that has nothing to do with the beach. But sometimes I'm just going to put some music in my head and I'm going to go just do the work, get the workout in. And maybe the run on the beach is really hard. And then I'm just the walk there was a warm up and the walk home is a cool down. So it's, I try to turn it into as much enjoyment as possible.
It's one of those things. I think, I guess to ask you a question now on teams, because any corporate, any leader has a team that they want to be working as a high-oiled, well-oiled. Sorry, I don't know why I got stuck on the word oiled there, but a team that's working well. It's my belief, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the things that on a mission would make you work as a team in real succinct levels is the fact that the decisions that you're making more often than not are life or death. So your heightened awareness of that is there. Similarly, same sort of theory. I've got a mate of mine who, he's a former gang member. He's turning his life around, that kind of stuff. But he's there's the people in the business world paying invoices and that kind of thing, and that less honest than people in the criminal world, because if you make a mistake with money in the criminal world, your knees are getting broken. But if you make that mistake in the corporate world, for lack of a better word, nothing's going to happen to you. Same theory, but what are your thoughts around all of that?
So I think, and I thought your question was going to go a little bit of a different direction.
Yeah, there was probably two there. That I asked, so we can probably answer.
I'm gonna answer the one that I thought, the direction I thought you were gonna go.
Let's do that. I
think but I think it might answer some of the other side of it is. I think the question was really around teamwork and how do you build a team that is that's going to work together, that's going to kind of have your back when you need someone to have your back, more or less.
Let's go with that one. That's a much better question. Yeah.
And I think you have to start off with, what is the mission? What is the purpose? What is the team here to do? And I got this question, kind of a similar question from, I don't know if you know, the guy's name is Tom Ziegler. He's the son of Zig Ziglar.
Oh, cool. No, I know Zig. Yeah.
So I guess his son Tom is kind of picked up where he left off, and he's writing books and getting on stage and doing coaching and things like that. I'm actually going to share the stage with Tom in about 3 weeks in California.
That's awesome.
So we were on a Zoom call together, and he was like, "So have you read Jocko's books or any these other people?" I'm like, "No, I don't. I'm not reading their books because I don't want to inadvertently use the language or the whatever. I mean, we know the same thing. We present it in a different way. So I don't want to steal his. There's nothing secret about what he's putting out. It's exactly what we all learned in the SEAL team. But he was like, "So how do you build a team that with this sort of remote working, everyone wants to work remotely and be trusted to do work remotely via Zoom or whatever, and not have to come into the office. And I said, well, that's kind of this thing that we talk about in the SEAL teams. And in, I have a course called the 5 SEAL Secrets of Leadership. And the 5th secret is a decentralized command and control. And if you've ever heard of cryptocurrencies, those are decentralized currencies, more or less. Why are they awesome? Because there's not a central bank that's in charge of them. They're completely decentralized. They have autonomy across, spending and ledgers and all this other stuff. There's not a single ledger. So in the SEAL teams, we do a really good job of training our team members, our, the top leaders, the mid-level leaders, the low-level leaders, and the low-level leaders. Like everyone, no matter what your rank or age or, position, you should be able to come in, depending on the scenario, come and take my job. My job as a leader is to train you to take my job. You should be able to put me out of a job tomorrow if you're working for me. Like I need to train you to take my job so that I can focus on other things. And so the first thing that we have to focus on is the mission. What is the mission of the organization? Do the subordinates believe in the mission? And then once you get them to believe in the mission and buy into the mission, and that becomes a part of like their daily habits and their daily thoughts, then you train them on how to do the job that they're supposed to do. Then you've developed this trust where you can say, okay, go do that. Go gang, it happens in gangs all the time. Like they are a team. And that was a great example, sort of analogy that you gave. Like I can say, hey, hey homie, go whatever, deliver those drugs to this, street corner and like whatever, bring me my money back. You told him what to do, how to do it. You trusted him to do it. He knows there's consequences if he doesn't do it. And so he's going to do it. And so the same thing happens in business. You train them on what you want, how to do it. You get buy-in. There are generally initiations to get into a gang of some sort. You don't just show up and you're like, yo, I want to be part of the Bloods or the Crips or the whatever you guys have in, I want to be the, I want to be the Aussie Pirates or something. I don't know if I insulted anyone right there, but
I don't. I have no idea. Yeah. I have no idea.
But generally, there's like we don't know you, bro. We don't trust you. So you go through some sort of initiation. The same thing in the SEAL team. Same thing in the military. You go through. There's initiation. But like businesses don't generally have that. They have an HR process. They have a hiring process, but it's really generally they hiring like, okay, yeah, it looks like you've got a degree in this and a something in that. And like, and maybe they ask you some critical thinking questions, but they don't actually train you to do the job. But the companies that like, they don't care what the resume says. They care like, okay, let's go through the interview process. And it's a very extensive interview process. And they like see like your critical thinking and see like how you think and are you trainable? For example, they say, maybe they'll say, and this was, my buddy that used to work at Goldman Sachs. He showed up, he did like 38 interviews before he got the job. And the final interview was like, okay, here's the number. I want you to call these 12 people and I want you to get sales for this. And he's like, okay, check. Can you give me a script for that? And the interview was over after that. He's like, check. Folded everything up. He said, you'll do fine. It was because my buddy was smart enough, he was not egotistical. He was like, okay, I can do this, but I need you to train me how to do it. Most people, going back to ego, they're like, I'll just figure it out. I don't need be brave enough to ask for help and be brave enough to accept the help and open enough to accept the help, especially if they're paying your paycheck, and then go out and but you have to build that culture from the leadership down. And when you build that culture in the team, you have the trust and people will go and do amazing feats, life or death, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question at all.
No, that was a damn good tangent. So I would have. Yeah, no, that was good. You touched on trust there, right? And it's the same thing. Trust has to be there if you're on a life or death mission. But in business, And in the sales environment as well, people like to say, oh, you know, in order for someone to buy from you, they need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. So trust being that last lock that if you turn, so you could know me, you could like me, but then you go, I don't know if I actually trust what you're saying, but I do like you. It's going to fall over, right? So how can we take, and this is my next clickbait question, how can we take Navy SEAL trust building into the business world?
I think you have to do team building exercises. I don't think there's any way around it. You have to do, team building exercises where you actually learn more about the person next to you and you start to care about that person that's next to you. Then you'll start to develop a trust. Like if you just have an office setting and everyone is 9 to 5 and no one really cares about, what the other person is doing. They only, they care about number one and no one else. And like, I'm showing up at 9 and I'm leaving at 5. Maybe I'm showing up at 9:01 and I'm leaving at 4:59, so I can be in the car by, like, that's difficult. That's okay. But, you have to be able to open the communication between the team. And a lot of organizations that I see, they're just individual focused. Like the leaders are only focused on like the leader, and maybe like so and so. There's like maybe there's an issue with this person maybe said something that was politically incorrect, and now we have to take HR action and do all this silly stuff that we have to deal with in the corporate world today. But why did that happen? It was because there was no trust. Like we didn't actually understand like what was going on with the person. And the military does an okay job at the kind of the senior enlisted level of telling, training those senior enlisted leaders to get down to what we call the deck plate in the Navy, to get down and like talk to the people, like, hey, how's it going? What's going on? Like, what's your wife's name? What's your husband's name? How's your, how many kids do you have? What grade? How, like, just have those like very basic conversations, learn about your people, and then encourage that like in your team. Like your teams should know what's going on. Maybe like someone has a baby. Okay, hey, so, Tim's having a baby. We're going to like send flowers and like, we're going to like bring lasagna and whatever. Oh, but his wife is gluten free and okay. So we got to work through that. But it's doing these little things together. And sometimes it's like, all right, let's go do an outing. Let's go like outside together and have a picnic. Let's go like cater, food and bring someone in to do little leadership games. And a lot of people, or team building games, and a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to like get out of their comfort zone of like their office, their cubicle. Don't mess with me. I got my little mirror up so I can see if you come in behind me. And they don't want to like communicate with anyone else in the organization. But the problem is, and we run into it in the military, you have all these civilians that are in charge of money and staff and all this other stuff. They have no idea what a Navy SEAL is doing in Iraq or Afghanistan or Africa or somewhere else in the world. They have no clue. They don't know what it takes to get there. All they care about is their budget. Are we going outside of this budget? And so what we had to do is we had to go in and like, okay, all of you civilian people that are supporting us, you're awesome because you support us. Come on out here and let's see what we actually do. Look what you're actually supporting. And maybe have a little bit of fun and things like that. But breaking down those walls between people, those cubicles, and you'll see like this was pretty trendy probably 5 or 10 years ago, where like these new tech companies would start up, no cubicles, no desks. It was just like big open space. Okay, this is where you work, because we don't want people to be compartmentalized into, into themselves. We want this to be a team effort and not a bunch of employees. So you can't be a team if you're not part of the team. If you don't have team members. If you have employees, you don't have a team. So you have to build team members. And that, again, starts from the leadership down. Again, I have no idea if I answered your question.
No, you definitely did. So one of the things that you said was team building exercises, right? The first thing that goes through my head, especially as a millennial, right? And I'll go, geez, team building exercise, that's going to be corny and cheesy. And now I'm spending 20 minutes doing bloody trust falls, right? There's a difference between corny team building exercises and legitimate, genuine Navy SEAL signed off, approved, there's my third clickbait question of this podcast, right? What's the difference between a corny trust building exercise that no one's going to get any value from and in fact hate doing versus one that's actually genuine and I guess signed off by the Navy SEAL William Branum methodology, right?
So so for example, potentially, hypothetically, I could come into an organization, I could give some classes, we could talk about teamwork, we could talk about mission, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain what the mission is, and maybe we have like, I don't know, we're going to use squirt guns. And I'm going to teach you like some, little tactics. And then I'm going to take the most senior guy and I'm going to put him in the back, and I'm going to take the most junior person, and they're going to run the entire mission. Ready, set, go. You got to brief it. You got to plan it, brief it, deliver it, and then execute it. Okay, and then I'll take the middle, and then we'll do something else a little bit different. And in keep putting different people in those leadership roles. Like if the leader's doing it all, that's great. Everyone listens, they know, but they're not learning. They're not learning leadership. They're not learning the stress of leadership. And that leader is like now having to take orders from the most junior person in the organization who might have the answer that the leader isn't actually asking. Like there may be a problem with the organization, and that leader he thinks he's so smart, or he's like only keeps it in the C-suite, and he doesn't ask like the receptionist. What do you think about how would you maybe solve this problem? Because the receptionist might actually have the answer, weirdly enough. And that was one of the cool things in the SEAL teams is it didn't matter what your rank or time in, you always have input into whatever we're doing. Now, it's going to come with a grain of salt. Like if you see something that's like, hey, have you guys like be respectful in the way that you present it and things like that, especially in the SEAL teams. But, there is a built-in respect, and, that everyone has a voice. Everyone has, because we all come from all kind of walks of life. I had a guy he used to be a scientist at NASA, a rocket scientist, and I had a guy that was a medical doctor. They were junior enlisted guys. And the doctor, he was really good at like working on vehicles. Like he loved that stuff. And I was like, you're a corpsman, bro. What are you doing? He's like, I know everything about this vehicle and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and I'm like, oh, he knew more about the vehicle than the engineer did. It was like, I'm like, this is not your zone of genius, but you're doing awesome. So ready, go. So you never know what, hidden skills or thoughts or, ideas other people might have. So as a leader, be brave enough to ask, and then also be brave enough to like put other people in charge. And so I had a conversation with a friend of mine recently where he wants to step out and do more of this kind of men's development, weekends, getaways, workshops. Workshop is not the right word. It's much more physical and much more, but it's very man-centric. And giving men an outlet to do man stuff. And he wants to step away from his real estate business and put the next guy in charge, but he doesn't know how to do it because he knows how to do everything. And I was like, do this. What you do is you go ahead and take James and you put James in charge. You sit there and you give him all the authority. Okay, everyone, James is making all decisions. It doesn't matter if they're bad decisions. They're his decisions. He's in charge. If he falls on his sword, that's okay. He runs the meeting. He does the things. And then in the debrief, because the debrief is critical. The debrief is critical. You give him like, hey, you did all of these things great, and these are things that you need to improve. So, maybe approach it this way next time. So that's kind of goes into the kind of mission planning process and that's the way that we do how we get better. Is number one, we bring everyone together to help put the plan together. We accept input from everyone from top to bottom. Then we brief the plan, we execute the plan, and then when that mission, whatever that thing is that we did is over, that meeting is over, we debrief it. What worked, what didn't work, this is what we changed, and this is how we get better. And so I just told him to just keep putting James in there, giving him more responsibility, and you keep stepping away. He's not going to do it as good as you. That's okay. He can still do it, and he'll get better than you in different ways. He'll bring different strengths that you don't have. And that's just the way that if you want this in the company and you want to do these things in your life, then this is how you have to structure it and this is how you have to do it. And you have to like be willing to give that away if that's what you actually want. If you want to hang on to it, then you hang on to it and don't try to build this other thing that you're trying to build. Keep your real estate company.
Yeah, mate, that's awesome. I think that's a really awesome spot to leave it on. But I've got, as corny as this is, and a lot of podcasts to do it, a bit of a quick fire sort of round at the end, right? But this is designed to, get to know William a little bit more and that kind of thing. What is it about what you do? Every day we have moments where we sit back and we pinch ourselves and we go, I can't believe I get to do this on a daily basis. It might be a phone call from a client. It might be some advice that we give to a friend that they then implement. What is it about what you're doing today that is that moment for you?
It used to be a really easy answer. Like, I get to jump out of airplanes. I get to shoot guns. I get to blow stuff up. I get to do really cool stuff. Now I still get to do cool stuff. I get to help people reach new potential that they didn't know they had. I get to open their eyes to areas that they didn't think were possible. And so that is, I think I get more joy out of that than I do out of, jumping out of airplanes. Although that's super fun. I like doing that. And shooting guns. I can still do that on my own. But yeah, getting that feedback in kind of a leadership, coaching, consulting sort of role where I don't have, I get to see the impacts and I get to see companies make more money just employing just small things that I help them with.
What's your big goals for 2022? What are you really wanting to do? And this is my little sort of, in 12 months I'll get you back on the show and we'll talk about it. But yeah, what's your big goal for 2022?
I want to get on. Let's see. Let's make up a number right now. Let's get on. I want to be on at least 12 stages in 2022. At least 12 stages. And let's throw some more in there. Let's say I want to get on even bigger podcasts. I did about 125 podcasts in 2021. So 2022, I want to do 200. And I want big names. Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, whoever. Joe Rogan's kind of a big name. But why not? Why not get on podcasts like that? Why not try?
You've got the story, this is me putting my marketing hat on right now, and I guess everyone can hear it. You've got the story, the skill set, the allure that comes with the background of being a 26-year Navy SEAL that will warrant you a spot on those shows. People want to hear your lessons, and we'll talk off camera. I kind of have some contacts and things that I might be able to help you with that. So, that's awesome, mate. And you're right. Why not? Why not have that as the goal?
Be unrealistic in what your goals are, because you might hit them. You just might.
But you won't hit them unless you
absolutely not.
Put them out there, right?
Yeah.
And finally, I know. So leadership is the big thing that you're doing at the moment, the keynote speaking, and that's kind of that. So. Yeah, could you? And we've sort of said what you deliver in companies, but could you give me a 30 seconds of if a corporate wanted to hire you today, what are they getting? And yeah, sorry to put you on the spot, but yeah, give 30 seconds, 60 seconds, just give a quick sort of explanation of if someone hires today, what are they getting?
So you get. So right now I'm focusing on just leaders in, small and medium sized business. If a big, Fortune 500 company or 100 company wants to hire me, awesome. That's even better. But more, one-on-one, coaching, very, what's the word? My brain stopped
Direct.
working. It's a very customized plan.
Customized, specific.
What works for you may not work for me, and so it takes a little time to kind of figure out what that is, because again, one size doesn't fit all. And then if you find value, if I'm bringing you value, then you can bring me into your organization, and I have other tools that I can bring, to the organization, whether it's for team building, if it's just motivation, I talked to a guy, I had dinner with a guy a few months ago, And he was like, "Oh yeah, we brought Goggins in for a kind of a motivational thing, and it was like perfect timing right before the pandemic and la 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 and whatever. And my linebacker wanted to arm wrestle him and some other stuff, and I was like, you can bring me in next time, and I bet I bring more value because I'm going to bring a different thing, and I'm not just going to say stay hard. I'm going to give you actual tools to work with."
Yeah, the practicality, not just motivational masturbation, right? Actual tools, right? So my then following question is, of these organizations that you're working with, what is the transformation that they go through in terms of what are some feedback that you're getting from people that they're going, man, like that speech just did this and this and that. Again, that's kind of the pinch yourself moments as well. Like, do you have anything that you can
I'll give you an example of one. So some of it is just like they're recognizing what's going on in their company. Entrepreneurs, leaders, sometimes they get hired. Maybe a leader gets hired because of his resume, but he doesn't know how to lead. So he gets the tools to lead, and oftentimes what that is he has to learn how to lead himself first. Are you going to lead yourself physically? Are you going to lead yourself mentally? Are you going to lead yourself spiritually? And spiritually, I'm not talking, religion specifically. How do you carry yourself? And when you start becoming more disciplined in the way that you do things and more aware, I want to be, what does a CEO actually look like in your mind? What do they do? What are their habits? How do they act? What time do they wake up? What time do they go to bed? What do they do for lunch? Do they eat lunch? Do they eat breakfast? What does that look like? All right, let's build that person. And then how do they communicate? Okay, let's build that. Okay, maybe you need to work on communication, and we kind of build a sort of a customized future for you. Basically, at the end of the day, what do you want your future to look like? So we're going to build that. And if you want it to be, I'm going to not tuck my shirt in. I'm not going to, wear a tie but I want to wear a t-shirt and, Chuck Taylors to work, and that's the way I want everyone else to operate. That's cool, but you need to raise the standard in other things in your organization. Maybe your dress code is not what you want to focus on. I want to focus on the best quality product, whether it's software, marketing, widget, whatever it is, like video game. I don't know. I'm making stuff up at this point. Real estate agents. But if you're going to be, go be a real estate agent and everyone's wearing like t-shirts and Chuck Taylors, you need to bring different value because people expect you to be a certain way. And so, figure out what you want. We can help build it for you. And then you can go from there. But, I have a client that he's taking over the family business. He's a young guy. His mom is going off to do other things. And so I'm helping him figure out, he's not the CEO, she is. He knows what's wrong with the business. He kind of knows how to fix it, but I'm helping him figure those things out. Okay, have you thought about this? Let's look at this. I'm just an outside set of eyes that you can fire me if you want, but I'll tell you if you're fucked up or not. If you need to fix something, you can fire me. That's fine. I'm not dependent on but you're hiring me to kind of hold you accountable at the end of the day.
Awesome, mate. Thanks for coming on. My last question is, if someone wants to reach out to you and find where you're at, what's the best places? And I'll put those links below.
I would say, I think where I'm pushing people right now is 5 SEAL Secrets. So the number 5, SEALsecrets.com. You're going to get the whole what Get Naked is all about. The email you're going to get a PDF from me that kind of an ebook almost, but you'll get this PDF from me. It will lay out really what Get Naked is all about. That comes directly from my inbox, from my email. So you can respond to that and say, hey, I heard you on Tim's podcast. Can we talk about maybe you coming here, maybe doing some speaking, maybe we do some long distance coaching or anything like that. That would be very cool. And I want to just really quickly about those 5 SEAL secrets. I shared them with a friend of mine. His name is Jim. And I don't know if I told you this story before. This is my third podcast today, so I sometimes repeat myself.
No, you haven't.
Okay,
good,
awesome.
Good, yeah.
So I shared this with a buddy of mine. His name is Jim. He's in the outdoor apparel industry. Very cool company. some of the stuff that they're doing. But the CEO got an inject of cash. It was like from a venture capital company. And so the VC company is putting a lot of pressure on the CEO to like increase profits, quarter over quarter. And so my buddy is the head of product design of the whole company. And so the CEO is like pressuring him. And so I'm talking to Jim about, all right, maybe look at like, talk to your CEO and figure out what your near, medium, and long-term goals are. Like here's some strategy things to look at. And, oh, by the way, for these other things that you're kind of struggling with in your life, divorce and kids and ex-wife and whatever and finances, I'm like, hey, check out, these 5 SEAL secrets. I sent him to the website. He downloaded it. He read it. Then he printed it out. Then he laminated it and like stuck it to his, like the wall of his house. And that was a Sunday. And then Monday he went into the CEO's office. And my friend Jim is not a like get in your face kind of guy. He's very passive. He's kind of like, let live and let live. And like, okay, whatever. Okay, we'll move and we'll maneuver and whatever. He said, I changed my tactic when I talked to the CEO. And I went in and I was like, hey, Tim, listen to me. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to perform for you. And the CEO was like now on his heels. Like Jim is just a super nice guy. He's like, I'm afraid I am afraid that I'm not going to be able to perform for you. And the CEO was like, whoa, easy, Tiger. Number one, why are you saying you're afraid? Number two, why are you being honest? No one does either one of those things. So that's like that. We got to unpack that real quick. And so he's like, oh, my buddy, he's got 5 SEAL secrets, la, la, la. I'm exposing my fear right now. Like, I'm afraid if you speak to me the way that you did the other day about this blah, 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 I'm not going to be able to perform at the level you need me to perform at. So let's figure out how to fix that. And so the CEO was like, can I get a copy of that 5 SEAL secrets? He shared it with a bunch of people in the company, and I'm turning that into a speaking and coaching event coming up here pretty soon. So I think people will get a lot of value out of that 5 SEAL secrets. Share it with people. Like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I already I emailed it to one of my mates directly after our first one, but also I believe I've downloaded it as well. But I'm definitely going to put it in the link to the show.
Awesome.
William, mate, thank you so much for coming back on.
Thank you, sir.
I've been Tim, you've been William. We've been talking. Thanks for being the expert that shared your blueprint today.